the weirdest story for me to ever tell, just because it's very personal. And I feel like I haven't had this opportunity before to get this deep. So, 6 weeks ago, I broke up with my boyfriend of 8 years. We started dating. Yeah, all right, yeah, I like that. Yeah, woo, damn, some support. Oh my God. And that's kind of funny, because something that I realized, like, going through my first real breakup in life is that there's this community of people, which I think is like 95% of the world, that they've gone through this and they're like, yeah, I get it. But I've never had access to this world, and I've never had the experience to be like, hey, I'm going through this, what should I do? Everyone's been super supportive, so I really appreciate that. And I need it, because I'm a mixed bag like, a lot of these days, where I'm like, I might cry, or I might not, or I might be happy, or I might laugh hysterically. We'll see. So I've talked about before, I moved back to Akron about 3 years ago after going to college, and when I moved back, I was going through a lot of depression and anxiety, just from overburdening myself in school, burning myself out, but I felt, comfortability being back in Akron. I felt comfortable being back in my relationship. And January of 2015, so almost 3 years to the month, my friend from college was doing a senior project called What Cages You? And she was doing a series of monologues with women about things that cage them or make them feel restricted. So I wrote her a monologue, and it's about, my depression and anxiety 3 years ago, but it's also about my relationship. So tonight, I didn't feel necessarily comfortable on, revealing all of the details of my relationship, but I do have this monologue to read that I thought would be fun for you to listen to with dramatic irony. Woo! Yeah. And it's not like my best writing, but just accept it, okay? This was 3 years ago, I'm better than that now. Okay, what cages me? 2 things: the bad, anxiety about social standing, and the good, being in a relationship. We've been together 5 years, and it sucks because I never want to get rid of him. He's like the way my favorite sweatshirt feels, or when you crave a food and every time you eat it, it's wholly satisfying. Wholly satisfying, how hard is that to achieve? I always convince myself that I'm satisfied after eating healthy for an entire week, but when I finally get a Swenson's burger, my arteries instantly groan and I'm lost in the brown sugar madness. It doesn't matter what happens to me physically when I'm done. The little Katie inside of me is happy, and that happiness is life-giving. So being with him is like the brown sugar heaven I destroy my body with every week. Except he's always there, on my couch, eating pita chips. It's so much easier to have someone around all the time. Then you don't have to spend time with yourself. What a relief, right? You won't second guess yourself, or worse, invest your time into something you love. I've spent a lot of time alone while I was in a relationship. In that time, I dedicated all of my energy and time to pursuing what I love. It was beautiful and addictive, but mostly destructive. Instead of taking care of myself and spending time with people, I hid in my cage. My confidence was dissipated. My creativity was blocked. I was a grape who laid herself under the August sun, and now I'm a fucking raisin. Dry and wrinkled, waiting for someone to crave me. To be fair, I'm a transitioning raisin. I found a bit of moisture in my new environment. It's called gentility. Not genitals, though, use of those are encouraged too. What I needed was a good, hard look in the mirror, literally. I saw my hair warm and glistening from rehearsal, the curls flattened over time, my face covered in acne farms, pale with exhaustion, and I saw my body, which slightly resembled a raisin. Yep, I need to care. Then I took a good, hard look at my brain. I saw my confidence box soaked with water from the basement, my creativity puzzle sprawled in pieces, and I saw my mind wheezing like a Winston's chain smoker. My brain was exhausted. I used, abused, and underpaid it. Because of indulging in academia's world of questioning why and how and where and when and who, I became this brain drone. I only thought about how systems worked. How was I a part of the problem? Every action I do affects someone else, so I need to become virtually untraceable. Unless they want me to be in their lives, but only if they exclusively tell me. I opened the door hoping my cat wasn't offended when he brushed his tail. I thought about what greeting I should say to each person hours before I saw them, and I watched marathons of House of Cards trying to get my mind off of politics. I became too cerebral. Everything was a system to break apart and mourn over and somehow fit myself in without touching anyone. I was thinking about what I should be doing instead of doing it. The only comfortability I had was being with him. I was free when I met him. I didn't want anyone's approval or attention. He wasn't overly confident or particularly talkative, but he had an energy that caught my attention. It was natural, it was genuine. Exploring a new energy from someone else had made me question myself. Thinking over and over about the nights we had spent together, I wanted to relive them and create more memories to consume me. This love is devouring and exhausting. I need it now and I can never change that. All my ambitions shaped into possibilities for sharing my life with someone else. It's limiting, but I allow it. If I decided to divide myself from him, how would I define myself? As a woman who chose power over domestication? As a young person having a personal crisis? As an irrational train wreck? Maybe I could contribute something life-changing to society if I only focused on my work. Stop racism, change policy, write a manifesto. Instead, I willingly chain myself to this relationship and limit my impact. Being with him has stolen my freedom. It's painful and perfect. I cage myself in this relationship because it makes me happy. It was the only thing for a while that was giving me peace. And it led me to a more fruitful and productive life because it identified what was important. I know what you're thinking. This is just another lecture about how love can change the world and all that bullshit. Yeah, I'm implying that, but what's important, more important than love, is knowing yourself. I caged myself because I didn't know what else to do. The world sucks, so you have to treat yourself gently. In that gentleness and self-care comes meaning. Simple enough. Caging yourself can seem debilitating, but most people need time to figure themselves out first. Once you've figured out what gives you that wholly satisfying feeling and the energy to get out of bed, then you're okay, whether you choose to leave the cage or not. So I wrote that 3 years ago. And reading it again, now it's obvious that I was not happy. But what I'm realizing is that happiness is about having the choice to do what I want and to really, if I do want to, be out till 3 a.m. and not have to worry about someone else, and that's what I want, right? So I can happily say that I am exploring happiness now, but I'm not in a cage anymore.